Hello, everybody. It's Halloween. I can't do it. I don't have the Halloween spirit. How are you guys doing?
Oh, I'm enjoying the horror
Oof.
of this election season.
Well,
I'm great.
right. Anyway, welcome to Pop Culture Uncovered. It is our Halloween edition, Halloween 2024. Joining me as always, Armand and Belle. And we're talking Halloween. We almost missed this. We only have a few days before Halloween. I won't lie. This has been a really interesting year because my wife has decided to watch any and every Halloween and horror themed thing she can on TV. So we've been watching a lot of movies, a lot of TV. So I'm really in the mood to talk about what are some Halloween traditions when it comes to like watching scary movies or scary movie season. Favorite old or new classics right now?
I have so many that I'm actually going to throw it to Armand first and let him go. Because I'm going to try to keep it simple, but
You can't keep it simple okay, dear listeners, let me just explain the huge philosophical gap between Belle and people like Pete and I, who I would put in Normalville, where Belle is the type of person that when there were VHS cassette tapes in rental stores, she wanted to look at the incredibly gruesome cover of the movie and then go, "Ooh, I want to read the back of the box." Wow.
Nope.
While Pete and I were like, I have seen what death and demonic possession look like now, and I don't want to watch the damn movie. I don't want to know the plot. I just want to get back to the action section of the store.
Right? I didn't need to go any further than the cover of Hellraiser to know that I didn't want to watch any Hellraiser. All right? Was that one with like the blades over the head? Not Friday the 13th.
The nails in the face pin head.
So none of that mess. You know what? I'm gonna go first now, Belle, because I'm so mad at all of the terrifying things you try to get me to watch that I never will. And on that note, I will say Bob's Burgers Halloween episodes hit me right in the heart because they are all so good.
They're fantastic.
I have loved Bob's from the beginning. I feel like we've had some ups and downs. I feel like we've had some really good seasons lately that have been a little bit more like, a little deep. But with Halloween, I feel like they never miss. And there's like 14 of them. So it's great for me for the Halloween season because it's also a nice palate cleanser for when your friend recommends something that is so terrifying that you can't even watch the trailer for it.
I was just going to say John Carpenter's The Thing, which really I could say almost any John Carpenter horror movie because they were all incredibly traumatizing as a child. Prince of Darkness literally was probably the movie that made sure that I got baptized at an early age. Because I was like, oh no, there's no saving the world, so I just want to make sure I save my soul so I do not go to hell. But I mean, in terms of things that created existential terror, I don't know that anything has ever scared me the way The Thing scared me as a kid. And I guess it's the other thing is and it holds up so well. I mean, for those of you who haven't seen the film, there's a thing from outer space, and then there's a bunch of guys on a military base in Antarctica, and hijinks ensue as the Thing begins to replace them. But the Thing really isn't like a human being, and it's made up of lots of different pieces. So you cut the arm off, and the arm becomes its own monster on its own.
Well, there's so many classic like visuals people I don't even think they realize are from The Thing. So many memes that have come out of The Thing. Like The Thing is having something of a revival, even even back when they just did an unnecessary prequel to it.
Oh God, yeah. But no, and I mean, look, I just feel like the acting, like Keith David, who also appears in Carpenter's They Live, along with oh God, Snake Plissken, my brain.
Oh yeah,
brain. Kurt Russell. Is another one of Kurt Russell's iconic, performances in the 80s. So I mean, but in terms of terror, when Wilford Brimley, who was like everybody's grandfather,
right.
back in the 80s and 90s, when he's in the movie and he's like, it's important that all of you die. That way humanity might have a chance. You're just like, Like, oh shit,
No.
this is like an H.P. Lovecraft movie where it's like everybody's going to die. Now we just get to the point about how horrible is your death going to be in comparison to other people.
Belle, I would just like to ask you a quick question about the thing, which is how old were you when you saw it? Like 4?
7.
Probably laughed the whole time.
Something wrong with that girl. Something wrong with her because that ain't
Now,
natural. That ain't natural.
to be fair, my mother tried to keep me from seeing it. And we were watching it, they were watching it at my uncle's house. And my cousin and I snuck out of our rooms and went down and at the railing and watched through the railing. And then we were so traumatized that we grabbed a baseball bat and a butcher knife and hid in a closet. And our parents couldn't find us for like 2 hours. But yes, I did see it at a very early age.
I was like 30 and it was terrifying. Like, I won't lie.
It was a very formative movie for me. Let's put it like that. That movie pretty much set my standards for
So,
horror.
so for you, Belle, what were some others, or what's like one of your big Halloween go-tos?
One of my big Halloween go-tos is anything by Mike Flanagan, specifically The Haunting of Hill House. Spooky season hasn't started until I have watched and cried and watched it again, The Haunting of Hill House. And then I intersperse that with an Absentia. If you haven't seen it, it's very good. Then The Haunting of Bly Manor, and then um, Oculus, and then
Okay, no,
Midnight
see, there are
Mass.
some there there are some things where like just the title of it tells you you don't want to watch it, and like Oculus to me is exactly that.
It's it
Armand,
is
I know you feel.
a very terrifying movie, and it was my introduction to Karen Gillan. She's in it. She's a part of Mike Flanagan's like production posse, and I will not tell you a thing about it. But oh, and Ouija as well. Uh,
Belle, I just love the fact that somehow you think that I don't know how Oculus ended because there's this thing called the internet. So even when I don't want to see horror stuff, without spoiling the ending of this delightful movie, and I'm being sarcastic as hell because the movie doesn't have there isn't shit delightful about the damn movie. When you see how exactly the main female character dies, you're like, let me get this straight. I just went through like 90 minutes of somebody desperately trying to do something only for them to die in quite possibly one of the most gruesome ways I have ever seen a character. Look, you know it's real when you're like Anakin getting burned up on Mustafar is actually a win in comparison to what the hell happens to Oculus.
that
That's
is
all I was gonna
correct.
say. You can go ahead.
That is correct. Well, and one of the reasons I'm drawn to Mike Flanagan's work is because, even, yes, it's horror. And yes, it is genuinely terrifying. But that's not the point. If you go back and watch all of Mike Flanagan's work, whether it's Doctor Sleep, whether it's, the films I mentioned, whether it's The House of Usher, it's about the relationships, and that's what makes it so upsetting. You are going to absolutely cry. You're going to be genuinely upset about the fate of these characters because you are going to be invested in them as people, and you're going to want the best for them, or you're going to want them to turn from a path that they're on that is not a good path, and hopefully they get better. And then something horrible is going to happen to them. I don't think I've watched a single Mike Flanagan production where anyone came out completely unscathed. There's no, even if you guys haven't watched The Fall of the House of Usher, which you absolutely should,
Nope.
it's so good though. As
Nope.
my mother said when we were watching it, she was like, "This is one of the most beautiful looking horror series I've. This is one of the most beautiful looking series I've ever watched." She's like, "These people are dying in the most beautiful way I've ever seen," and it's the only way that I explain it. I will. Literally the only way I can explain it is the way he shoots Even the deaths are gorgeous. The acting is always phenomenal. The characters are always fully rounded people. And so that is my go-to for spooky season. Right now I've been rewatching The Haunting of Hill House, and I always get gut punched at episode 6. For those who haven't seen it, it is so upsetting, but it's so well done. And everything they built that got to that point was so well done. Um, and then, of course, the official holiday season doesn't begin, for me at least, until I have watched The Nightmare Before Christmas on a completely different note. For me, officially, the holiday season from Halloween until New Year's does not begin until the whole family sits down and watches The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is not technically horror, but it is really fun and well done. And I really just enjoy it so much, and it's makes my heart happy to watch it. Kind of like the Bob's Burger palate cleanser for you, Pete. It just makes me happy.
That's one of my like I think every single year we watch The Nightmare Before Christmas. It's always a pick for my wife. Uh, Armand, did you have a second go to for Halloween?
Yes, The Simpsons Tree House of Horror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
because it was funny. I can remember I was in high school the first time. It was like, like, oh, we'll let the kids watch, something fun. And
Mhm.
I remember thinking, I don't think I've ever been this scared watching an animated cartoon
Yeah.
before. I was like, I was like, and I watched The Simpsons on the regular basis. So
Right.
this ish should not be this scary. But then by the time I've gotten to the end of the episode, I'm like, I don't want to watch this crap no more until next Halloween. But there's always surprisingly so well done. I mean, I guess that's to be said of just The Simpsons in general. Like you think that things would get stale, and somehow they find a way to keep everything fresh. But no, just I genuinely look forward to the Treehouse of Horrors every year, and I even love watching the old ones because just it's almost kind of like loving a classic mixtape, like loving Doo Wop 95 Live. It's like Treehouse Horror, of four. Like you actually like want to watch the progression of like the I can't remember their names, but the two aliens who don't have arms,
Yeah.
and then like they're
Kang and
always good.
Kodos.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're always going to win. So it's
Well,
like you're sitting there
mhm.
just kind of watching it year after year, like they're like silly humans. They don't realize we're going to eat them all. So
They're so fun and sinister. Those early season Treehouse of Horrors, before they even called it that one, it was like the Simpsons Halloween special, are also on the top of the list for traditional Halloween watch. But some of them are like Twilight Zone episodes where they're like just that like 10 minutes where it's like that's just good enough to tell the perfect story. When Homer keeps going back in time, when Homer, gets into the deal with the devil who is Flanders, which is like the best part of that. His head gets turned into a donut at the end when they like discovered 3D animation and like spent like $1 million just to make a 3D Homer. Anytime when the BBA sisters are witches, Belle, you had one on deck.
Full Metal Alchemist, for those who are not familiar, is an anime that was written, I want to say in 2000, no, it's even earlier than that. 2001. Yeah, and it ran for 9 years, and then it was turned into an anime adaptation, Full Metal Alchemist 2003, and it is that show stayed with me. I remember reading the anime and I remember watching the show. And now, to be honest, the both Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood are the anime adaptations are not as faithful to the original manga as they could be, but they were so well written in and of themselves. And I don't know how to explain it. The From the beginning, the impending feeling of dread even at the top of the series, when things aren't going badly, but you know something is going to happen, and you know that these two little children are about their lives are about to be changed in a way that is not great. And so it really does a great job of talking about unwilling body modifications, about the nature of evil, about um the darkness and what we as humanity will excuse in the name of order. And so that for me is one of my favorite horror go-tos because it's not an obvious terrifying thing in the way that not and I'm not knocking it, but in the way that some anime can be. Um but it's more insidious and more stressful to me because I could see us as people falling down this road, if that makes sense. And so it just does a really good job of just building your dread, building the dread, building the dread up. Um, and so, and there are lighthearted moments, but you always know that that sword is hanging over the entire cast head at any time. Something horrible is going to happen. It's not a question. And even when they win, they lose. And so that is my second pick is Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
I think for me, it's like a double feature. Although considering how long they both are, it's like quadruple feature in that like in the 90s, like we remember the 90s and then the late 80s, and it was sort of like, whether you were a horror geek, whether you were a comic book geek, whether you were sci-fi or fantasy, you would get like one or two things a year that you could look forward to. And if it whether it was good or bad, like you were just like, okay, I'm here for it. This is the thing that's now, gonna be apparently permanently etched in my memory. And so for me, those two things were both adaptations of Stephen King works that were incredibly long and so required a miniseries, and that was It and The Stand. And I think there's something incredibly charming about both of those in that like they are so of their time. Like you could only afford so many special effects. You could only afford certain actors. You could only and yet at the same time it was like watching a community theater. Like no, not even a knock. It's just like that's the flavor it was to me of like watching the best community theater at that where you are a participant because your suspension of disbelief has to be the final piece of the puzzle where you're like, you know what? I don't care how cheesy that was. I'm fully in and I'm fully terrified. When, Tim Curry as Pennywise the Clown is dancing around, he's terrifying. When he's got obvious fake fang teeth in, he's still terrifying. When when they use claymation to show him coming out of the drain and he's pushing all the little tiles aside, and it looks like that terrible scene in Return to Oz uh, with the Rock King. It was still terrifying because I'm like, no, I'm fully committed to this. That spider that wasn't scary was also terrifying. Like everything about it in particular was scary because again, like I was a participant in making that story happen in my brain, and so I was also completely at fault for being scared of something that in retrospect and watching it in years since then it's kind of chintzy. It's kind of like you can see the tags on the masks and the paint on the back of the of the props, but it didn't matter, and it still doesn't matter. Like it is still pretty chilling, both The Stand and It.
Man, listen, it and the stand, it was the reason I couldn't mess with clowns for literally 30 years until I watched it chapter two. I mean, until I watched the new remake. And even then, both versions of Pennywise are absolutely terrifying. Sorry, they just are. They just are. Armand.
I would say the new Evil Dead remakes. Um, I saw the last horror movie that I actually paid money to see in a theater was because my kid sister really wanted to see the Evil Dead remake, and I kind of told her I was like, I don't think that this is a good life choice. I think it's a good idea. Um, One, because she had picked a horrible movie the year before, which was Hangman, which nobody probably remembers. So I was like, oh, this will be another crappy horror movie, and I'll be fine. And I was traumatized by the very first Demonite, and it's the Evil Dead movies are so unnerving because it's not even the demonic possession, like when they're killing people that get you. It's the first person who gets taken over and turned into a Demonite. They literally show her urinating on herself first, and that was like so, and like her body twitching, and that was so terrifying. I was just like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. And then, without spoiling anything else in the movie, when the movie ends, and let's just say things did not go well for the vast majority of the characters in the film, the sound that's playing, any other horror movie has some theme playing, some theme to let you know you have been exposed to some great American horror, and now you've got an iconic theme song. And these people decided to play the sound of flies buzzing around corpses. And if you could imagine,
Yep.
it's just me, my father, and my sister in this movie theater, and that's the sound. And they didn't turn the lights on when the
Nope.
movie ended. So I was
Nope.
just like, so when the movie ended, I was like, yo, I'm getting the out.
No.
I'm done. I'm done. I was like, I stayed long enough to see the Bruce Campbell,
Cameo.
the 2/10 of a second cameo. Groovy. I was like, groovy my ass. So I wish this was Army. I wish this was Army of Darkness. Army of Darkness at least made me feel like there was some damn hope. Evil Dead was just like, oh, you don't get it. Everybody loses to the devil.
Oh yeah.
Nobody it's like you can have a plan, and you know what's gonna happen, and you got ideas. No, you're going
Not gonna help you.
to use the quote from one of the characters of the movie. You're gonna end up being the devil's bitch.
Yep. Have you seen Evil Dead Rise?
No, because just like I said back in the day about the VHS cassette tapes, I saw the trailer and was like, I don't need that level of terror in my life. I'm not watching that ish.
I saw Evil Dead Rise. Let me put it this way. There are very few films that Ron has absolutely refused to watch with me. Evil Dead and Evil Dead Rise were the two films that Ron put his foot down and was like, I'm not watching that. I'm not watching that. You could go watch that on your own. You're on your own. I'm not watching that. I don't need to see nothing else. I saw the trailer. I'm good. I'm good. And Evil Dead Rise, Armand, is somehow 10 times worse than the first one. Just to give you an idea.
Yeah, nah, there ain't no way. All I needed to see in the trailer was mommy's with the maggots now. I was like, nope, done.
No.
So
That's no. Stop. There are some Halloween nopes for me. That one's up there. And also I remember being a sailor where part of my job was to literally show the movies on ships. And sometimes I didn't want to be there. And there was like an entire year where everybody just wanted to watch Event Horizon over again. And that was not fun.
Event Horizon, yet again, another wonderful movie that left you at the end traumatized because you were like, so they escaped hell, right? They escaped hell.
No, they didn't escape a
they
damn thing.
they didn't escape hell, and it's hell for everybody now, and it's just hell, and you can't even go in space and hide from hell because hell is in space. Yeah,
See,
no.
but I went in thinking I was going to watch a sci-fi movie. And this is my biggest problem with sci-fi is when a sci-fi movie swerves and becomes a horror movie and nothing makes sense and all these rules you set up don't even matter, or it swerves the other way and becomes about, spirituality and, love was the language the whole time. It ruins sci-fi for me. So
yeah, Event Horizon ruined my 20s for me.
all of them?
I mean,
Yes.
it was okay. The commonality, I guess, for me between like the Carpenter stuff and the Event Horizon, it's when the director has chosen to be like, I have kept you on the edge, or Oculus, to be perfectly honest. I have kept you on the edge of your seat this entire film, and I know that you've been waiting for this palate cleanser moment of the hero has at least survived this iteration of the evil, and perhaps we'll see another iteration in the sequel, but this one they've definitively beaten. And in all 3 instances I mentioned, the director was like, "No, I'm actually an H.P. Lovecraft fan, and what I wanted you to experience is the fact that you've been damned since you sat down in the chair.
Yep.
Nothing good's going to happen to anybody. It's all circling the drain. And the question that you really have to ask yourself is, are you the type of person who wants to die early in the movie and you die quickly? Or are you the type of person who wants to sit through the psychological terror of watching 36 people get eviscerated before finally at the end you're like, I've made it, and they're like, no, and we're going to vivisection you and eat your brain slowly. You could have just been shot. So yes, no. So for all of those films, yes, no. Yes, no, hell no, no, thank you.
With a whole bunch of no thanks.
I feel like that sums up the whole podcast. We do have to go, so I just want to say thanks to you guys for hanging out with me. Really excited to try to get some sleep now, thinking of all the terrible things that you both have brought up. Maybe I'll watch some Simpsons to make myself feel better. We are Pop Culture Uncovered. You can find us at popcultureuncovered.com, PC Uncovered on your Instagram, and also you can find us on Patreon, where you can find podcasts just like these. We will be back next week. We're going to talk about how Agatha All Along ended, which I am extremely excited for. And I can guarantee you, Armand and I are going to sit down and have a serious discussion about The Thing. So, looking forward to that.
That's going to be delightful. I'll just say in closing, everybody, don't take any horror movie advice from Belle. She will have you in therapy for the rest of this life. You'll die, and you'll be reincarnated, and you'll still be traumatized for reasons that you don't understand. Don't listen to Belle. Don't watch Belle's horror movies. Listen to Armand and Pete. There's an acceptable level of Halloween terror. You don't want to be asking yourself existential questions like, am I going to have to just live in a church for the rest of my life? Just immersed in holy water to be able to survive.
Check the back of the box. Check the back of the box. Good night.